Very African.
It's also a little bit of a cliche. I mean, we're all used to the James Bond scene, as it were, with all the ambassadors sipping champagne and seeming to do nothing else but dine and sip champagne at receptions. That is not true. That is a misconception of the time and the nature of the work.
Diplomacy is not
happenings in the world of diplomacy and international relations, diplomatic affairs. My name is Harriet Nati. The show comes off every Saturday on Pan-African television from 4 to 5 o'clock p.m. We are also big on our digital platforms, which is YouTube and, of course, Facebook. So wherever you find yourself, like I always say, you can catch up with us and get to know what is happening when it comes to issues pertaining to diplomacy and, of course, engagements between countries. Today is a very beautiful day. I'm excited for so many reasons, and we have some top-notch stories that we'll be sharing with you. We've been busy with our cameras rolling in the diplomatic space, capturing the various activities happening in the diplomatic community here, and so we have a very interesting and informative lineup for you. We have the 79th UN Day, which will be featuring on today's episode of the show. The Accra Metropolitan Assembly is also featuring on the show, and of course the focus for today's show will be the Commonwealth and of course the BRICS Summit, which took place in Russia. My name is Harriet Nati once again. I'll take a break. When I come back, we will start our show.
It's also a little bit of a cliche. I mean, we're all used to the James Bond scene, as it were, with all the ambassadors sipping champagne and seeming to do nothing else but dine and sip champagne at receptions. That is not true. That is a misconception of the time and the nature of the work.
Diplomacy is not devoid of accountability.
Everything that matters in Africa matters to Europe as well. Be it demography, be it economy, be it security, be it culture.
Can somebody tell me where Ghana is found in Africa? Is it west? Is it south? Is it north? Is it east Africa? Which one? Any idea? Any idea?
It's like on the west.
It's like, this is what? I don't get.
It's the south. It's to the west. It's to the west.
Okay. South American ambassadors represented.
I'm transforming the UN and making the UN more fit for business for Ghana is the prime objective that I have here.
You are one outstanding journalist, broadcast journalist, who has put diplomatic tourism and, diplomatic relations under one spotlight.
I have been watching diplomatic affairs, and I've waited unabatedly for my opportunity to come here as I watched my colleague, the EU, last week.
This is Diplomatic Affairs. My name is Harriet Nati. back. The show is Diplomatic Affairs. My name is Harriet Nati. Now, to begin with, let me take you to the celebration of the 79th United Nations Day, which Ghana joined the United Nations, in marking the day. The 79th United Nations Day has been marked with a flag hoisting ceremony here in Accra, themed "Working Together Towards Peace and Sustainable Development in Ghana for Present and Future Generations." It's reignited calls for the sustenance of peace as Ghanaians go to the polls to exercise their constitutional rights on December 7.
Theme, you as a beacon of peace in the sub-region. As we approach the 2022 presidential and parliamentary elections, we must all remember that peace is the glue that binds this great nation together. It is therefore essential now
sustainable development in Ghana for present and future generations was chosen not only to highlight and reinforce the nexus between peace and sustainability, but to deliberately emphasize the vital importance of ensuring that peace will prevail before, during, and after the upcoming general elections slated for 7th December this year. We recognize that peace is a non-negotiable commodity that we ought to collectively prioritize for tools for building a better world.
The essence of this meeting was in the area of secularity, where we are thinking of managing
workshop has been held to address textile waste challenges in Ghana and across Africa. Organized by the Accra Metropolitan Assembly in partnership with the Africa-Europe Mayors Dialogue, the objective was to build collaboration and exchange practical knowledge on leveraging city diplomacy and cooperation to support policy change and reform, and also promote sustainable textile management, recycling, and innovative circular business models.
The essence of this meeting was in the area of circularity, where negatively on tourism. But with this collaboration, we are hoping to up our game in terms of circular model by way of sorting the textiles, collecting them separately, and then learning from what is happening elsewhere from all our cities, and partners in the global north, so that at the end of the day, we can resort to mechanical recycling or better still upcycling and changing them and turning the challenges that we are seeing now into opportunities in the world. Thank you.
Objectives of this program fall under two categories. The first category is technical cooperation between the cities that are participating and the cities that have traveled to Accra. And the second category is policy and advocacy, and that involves the policymakers and the city actors who are giving their time and exchanging their knowledge with each other.
Right, so that was the Accra Metropolitan Assembly. Now back to the studio. My guest is all seated, and he's ready to help us understand developments around the Commonwealth and also the BRICS Summit, which happened in Russia. So we will start with the Commonwealth, and we will talk about Ghana's Foreign Affairs Minister, who has been elected to head the Commonwealth for the next, is it 4 years? I think, or 4 years, right? It's a term. Yeah, 4-year term. So we will be looking at that. My guest is already seated, as I mentioned. I am expecting Farouk Al-Wahab, an international relations correspondent, expert or specialist, exactly. He prefers it when I say that he is an international relations specialist. So I like to address him as such, and I'm expecting him to join us, and I hope that he'll be able to make it so we can have a fruitful conversation on today's show. Let me introduce my other guest, who is already in his seat. I have with me Mr. William Manful, and he's the Director of Americas and at the Ministry of Foreign Affairs and Regional Integration, who is a very good friend of ours. He's one of the people that we go to from time to time to consult him on some of the technical issues when it comes to what we do. Mr. Manful, it's good to have you on Diplomatic Affairs. Welcome.
It's good to be here, Harriet. Thank you for the invitation.
You are welcome. Thank you so much. It's very important that we have the right people to help us inform and educate our audience. So
Certainly.
We are so happy that you could make time to join us on today's show. Now, I'm going to take the subject matter for today's episode, and we are focusing on the election of Her Excellency Honorable Shirley Ayoko Botche's new role at the Commonwealth, and we'll be talking about the Commonwealth in general. We'll talk about what is expected of her. We'll talk about the highs and the lows when it comes to the organization, the 56 member states. We'll talk about that, and then we'll look at other issues of interest as well. Now, Minister for Foreign Affairs and Regional Integration, Shirley Ayoko Botche, has been elected as the 7th Secretary General of the Commonwealth at the 27th Commonwealth Heads of Government meeting held in Apia, Samoa. Did I get the name right?
Yes.
Samoa is the name, right? It is an
Samoa,
island.
yeah.
Samoa.
Yeah.
It is an island.
Yes.
Right. Okay. So we'll learn more about Samoa. With her distinguished career in diplomacy, international relations, and politics, of course, the 60-year-old lawyer whose 4-year tenure takes effect on April 1st, 2025, just next year, becomes the second female after Patricia Scotland to occupy the enviable position. She's also the second African after Chief Chukwuemeka Eliezer Anyaoku to serve in that role. Her international profile soared as she championed Ghana's foreign policy agenda, particularly during the country's recent two-term on the United Nations Security Council. One of her landmark achievements came in December 2023 when she secured a historic win for Africa with the unanimous adoption of Resolution 2719, enabling UN funding for African Union-led peace operations. I want us to take a look at a debate which took place with two others, the other candidates who were with her when they were in the UK, London, right? They were in London for that debate.
Indeed.
And we would like to hear what her pitch was about, because they were all given some minutes, like 5 minutes each, to pitch, you know, their strongholds, accomplishments, and of course, what they think the Commonwealth should look like going forward, the future of the Commonwealth. So let's take a look at that video if it is ready.
It's being recorded and it's being live streamed. Over the next 90 minutes, we're being given a unique opportunity to hear directly from the three candidates nominated to be next Secretary General of the Commonwealth. Excellencies, Mamadou, Shirley, Joshua, thank you so much for your willingness to engage with us and for your dedication to the Commonwealth. For some, it's tempting to see the Commonwealth as a relic, a fading echo of a complicated and troubled past. But I believe we have the chance here today and in the months ahead to prove that assumption wrong. After 5 years as head of the Commonwealth Civil Society arm, it's clear to me that the 2.7 billion citizens of our Commonwealth want this organisation to work. They want an institution that shares their values and their hopes for the future. The next Secretary-General will play a crucial role in steering the Commonwealth towards a future that we can all share. The next Secretary-General must not only ensure the Commonwealth's survival, they have to be able to work with Member States and many Commonwealth partners to shape the Commonwealth into a powerful force, one that we can leverage to pursue justice, dignity, and prosperity for everyone, everywhere. We should never forget that at its core, the Commonwealth is a values-based organisation. Democracy, human rights, good governance, these are the principles that unite us. But ideals only matter if they're put into practice. And let's be honest, across such a diverse membership, with varying political and social landscapes,
where ideals take a back seat in political expediency? Can it inspire the young, the marginalised and the hopeful across its member nations? And most critically, how can the Commonwealth, with its shared history, stand united in addressing the modern-day threats to democracy, peace and the health of our planet? So the election of the next Commonwealth Secretary-General takes place at the Heads of Government meeting in Samoa this October.
I want to say that my relentless commitment to serving humanity in the past 30 years has taught me useful lessons of values that preserve human dignity, which is the Commonwealth of Nations, values that the Commonwealth of Nations are championing. The relevance of the Commonwealth continues to recommit individual groups, associations, civil society around the world to redouble their efforts in the face of political uncertainties and climate change to maintain our communities together, to collectively harness the diversity of values that bind us together.
In conclusion, let me also state that the development.
So realizing these priorities, they require great focus on strategic partnerships to make the most of our resources and increase impact. So having been a 4-term parliamentarian, I understand the mandate of the CPA, and I intend to work closely with the CPA. I also intend to work closely with the foundation, because I've worked closely with civil society organizations to enhance policy making and program delivery. So I believe that collaboration is key. I am thankful that a majority of our member states have embraced my vision and candidature. And I'm of the firm view that the Commonwealth needs to rally around a candidate with the best chance of harnessing a mandate that will move the Commonwealth forward. We've all talked about the potential of the Commonwealth, so we see the potential. What we need to do is to move it from potential into realization. This Commonwealth has achieved a lot, and I believe that it can get even better. Thank you.
Thank you, Shirley. Thank you. You were exploiting your position of distance from me, not being able to catch my eye. I was clearing my throat very loudly there. Thank you, all of you. So that's the pitch from our 3 wannabe Secretary Generals of the Commonwealth. It's going to be a tough contest. Let's just pick up something, and I'd like you all to comment on it. Joshua, you talked about the role of quiet diplomacy for the Secretary General, and that's something that a lot of diplomats espouse. Kofi Annan used to say, I won't go around with a megaphone. You know, Thabo and Becky the same in South Africa. But when do you judge it is right to speak up when you see violations happening? Do you always just take the quiet approach? Because surely the citizens of the Commonwealth want to know that their leaders are actually calling out violations, human rights abuses and all the rest of it. When do you speak out, and when do you stick to your quiet diplomacy track?
Thank you very much. Over the past couple of years, the Commonwealth leaders have...
He has at their disposal. Well, the current one is a female, so that the Secretary General has is soft power, diplomacy, because you're a diplomat, first of all. And it's for that the heads of government created the CMAG. So I believe that the Secretary General will do all the engagements behind closed door, because usually that works. And if for any reason it does not work, then you have CMAG. And you have a CMAG then that can, through their actions, through the actions that they take, that would be speaking loudly. And so if they decide that there's a human rights violation, and they decide to either suspend or to expel, that is speaking, for me, speaking loudly.
All right.
So the work between the good offices of the Secretary General and CMAG is extremely important.
All right. I'm going to stay with you, Shirley, because we had a follow-up on this kind of discussion.
Do a SWOT analysis and see how best we can make
account for that. It needs to be brought, pressure needs to be brought on them to...
Already mentioned NGOs, CSOs.
They shape policy, and so I believe it's important for us to work together. The Secretariat, countries work with civil society in order to shape policy for decision making. It's extremely important. Whether it's on health, whether it's on the youth, whether it's on governance issues, civil society can play a role. That engagement is key. It's important.
All right, Joshua.
The Charter of the Commonwealth already recognizes the centrality of civil society in its work, which I think has gained traction after the elections in Lesotho. Right. So I think...
And so it's important to build more capacity to...
The tools, given the environment that allows...
More people understand the Commonwealth and its achievements.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, who has the microphone? Yeah, go ahead.
William Horsley from the Commonwealth Journalists Association. I would remind you that there is, at the CHOGM Summit coming up, a very practical initiative for accountability. It takes the form of a civil society initiative already approved by law ministers, and it's called the Commonwealth Principles on Freedom of Expression and the Role of Media in Good Governance. I'd put it to you that if that is adopted, and if there are mechanisms and genuine effort is put behind implementing this, that this could be a transformation which achieves accountability and the credibility.
Welcome back. You're still watching Diplomatic Affairs with me. My guests are all here and seated. Like I mentioned earlier, we were waiting for Farouk Al-Wahab, and finally he gets to join us for us to have a very balanced conversation. Like I mentioned earlier also, Mr. William Amanful is also joining us from the Ministry of Foreign Affairs and Regional Integration. He's the director of the Americas Bureau at the MFA, and of course we have our international relations experts or specialists, diplomatic consultants also joining us here. Thank you so much for coming, Farouk. So now let's talk about, I'm sure we all saw what happened yesterday, and it's, for me, it was a moment of perseverance. It was a moment of dedication to the cause. It was a moment of women empowerment. It was a moment of creating opportunities for other women to also aspire to inspire, and not just locally in our space, but at the global stage also. International positions such as this one goes a long way to also inspire other women to climb to the top. So I was very thrilled, and I am still excited. That's why I said from the beginning of the show I couldn't contain my excitement, but I'm happy. But you are the experts here. We have the civil servants, we have the technocrats here, and you help us with our conversation. The Commonwealth, before we even come to celebrate this moment with our Honorable Minister, Her Excellency Shirley Ayorkor-Botchwey, I would want to start with you, Mr. William Amanful. I want to find out from you, is the Commonwealth in good terms with its member states right now as we speak?
Yes, thank you for the audience. I will predicate my response on what I believe is a position which probably my fellow panelists might not agree with. However, I will say that one shouldn't crystallize the Commonwealth in time and space. Now, the Commonwealth, I believe, is anchored around the United Kingdom as an empire. But with time, it has evolved. It has evolved and reached a stage where even, I believe, Francophone countries such as Togo and Gabon have joined the Commonwealth. And the evolution goes on. I sit here as the beneficiary of a Cambridge Commonwealth scholarship. Vis-a-vis the discourse this afternoon, the emphasis is on the word Commonwealth. The mere fact that the Commonwealth is even subsidizing studies around the world as to its relevance. So I will only say that we are happy with the current development. It's now within our domain, and the fact that it is in our domain gives us the chance to also shape the evolution of the organization so that it becomes more responsive to the needs of the member states.
Right. We shouldn't crystallize the Commonwealth in time and space, as you said. You are a beneficiary of one of the programs of the Commonwealth. Indeed, for you where you sit, you think that, yes, there are challenges, but the Commonwealth can do better going forward. That's your position.
Well, everything evolves. Right. You know, that is, I think, how life works. So the evolutionary process, we are now in a position to influence it in a way and manner that it suits or fits our interests as a collective.
Okay, all right,
so,
as a collective.
I mean, if I may add to that, to every cloud there is a silver lining. And it is now our duty, our imperative, to find a silver lining to the Commonwealth, especially now that it is within our fold.
All right. Now, I'm going to direct my next question to Farouk Al-Wahab, and I'm going to talk about a very interesting and sensitive sentiment that has been shared by Commonwealth member states. The debate over relevance and representation continues in various forms, reflecting broader concerns about the effectiveness of international organizations' influence in addressing contemporary issues facing African states. Countries like Zimbabwe have had a complicated relationship with the Commonwealth, particularly after its suspension in 2002. Is the Commonwealth once again serving the needs of Africans?
Well, I wouldn't say that only serving the needs of Africans. Commonwealth is not up to serving the needs of virtually all the member states, not only Africa. Bear in mind that Africa contributes greater number of the Commonwealth states if it talks in terms of continents, whereas Africa has about 23, and then Asia has 8, and we have the Pacific having 11, and then Europe, where the British themselves are housed, there are only 3, Cyprus, Malta, and the English, that is the England itself. And then you talk about the Americans and the North Americans and the Caribbeans. There are about 13 of them, which includes the almighty Canada. But when you go to the South Pacific, where they have quite a number, also you realize that we have New Zealand, we have Australia, we have big wigs in the Commonwealth. But then let me ask, Commonwealth represents a population not less than 3 billion. So if it's an international organization with about 3 billion member states are 56, the second biggest to the United Nations, or the third biggest to the United Nations, because you have the African continent also 56, and then you also have the Commonwealth 56. But in terms of population, Commonwealth comes next to the United Nations, i.e. 2.7 billion. That is rough conservative calculation, but then let's take it about 3 billion, which is more than a quarter of the world population belonging to one international organization. Then let's look benefits. Our brother mentioned of only study program. My brother, is not enough. We're talking about states and the benefits. Commonwealth was established on certain principles. One of them was governance and democracy. One of them was rule of law. One of them was to develop the society and the young people. And then one of them was also to support the smaller nations, i.e. when you go to the Caribbean and the Pacific, Commonwealth had numbers, countries, that population, Nauru Island for instance, Vanuatu is only 300,000 people. Kiribati is not up to 300 people. Samoa Island, where this event took place yesterday, how much is their, what's their population? Solomon Islands, how much is their population? Tonga Islands, what is their size of a population? And if you look at the Micronesia, Polynesia regions, let's go back to the Caribbean. This is an organization that has smaller nations who are in very desperate economic situation. Trade and economy was one of the wheels on which Commonwealth intended to ride. So I would ask the Commonwealth, with the background of the size and with the background of the countries and with the background with the big wigs of country in there, the Commonwealth lords, that is the British, they left the Commonwealth more or less hanging and went to join a union which they knew very well that they were not going to succeed, i.e. European Union. That is why they had to go out, not by anything. Because of what? They didn't have any colonies within the European Union, except Malta, except Cyprus, that joined later. Therefore, if you have a population of 2.7 billion, all behind the British. Of course, my brother made mention, one would have thought that and the attractiveness of the Commonwealth that propelled the French Cameroon to join, Togolese to join, Rwanda to join, and including even Mozambique, which is a Portuguese country, and many others, making 23. Let's find out what and how, where is the Commonwealth? All the five frontiers of the establishments of the Commonwealth. Now, you made mention of Zimbabwe.
Right.
It's a smaller country that had a problem with the British under Tony Blair. Commonwealth have not been able to resolve it. Commonwealth have never resolved the issues related to even the environment with the countries within the regions which hosted the British, especially countries like Vanuatu during the time of the Second World War. Let us not forget about the fact that on the entire world, the only country till today that has a population bigger than all the Pacific Islands where this event took place in the Samoa, in the name of West Papua. West Papua, the British government till today in London holds the interim president Benewenda of West Papua. Yet, is the only country that has not gained independence. Commonwealth has never spoken about it. Nevertheless, Commonwealth leaves. The British leaves UK and go and resolve, try to talk and then discuss issues related to Israel and Palestine. That is okay. What about the only country till today, only 4 or 5 of her nationals have been able to exit? In the hands of Indonesia, which, and the only country with the prisons being circulated or circled, policed by pythons, eating human beings up. Commonwealth had never mentioned on the table. Nevertheless, you have 11 members in the the Pacific. Now, let's talk in terms of the Commonwealth. What the achievements and the benefits, which my brother is talking about, fair deal, but that is what he has benefited. There's just a minimum of it. If you're talking about Vanuatu citizens, to the Australians, they are slaves. If you talk about the Tonga Islands nationals, to the New Zealanders, they are slaves. No, nevertheless, you realize that the South, that is the Oceania regions, Australia here and then New Zealand here, sandwiched in between with all these smaller islands. None of the islands, including their diplomats, are allowed even to travel to any of these Commonwealth countries, whether it is you're talking about Australia or you're talking about New Zealand. It does not allow these smaller nations. That their population is only 10,000. Nauru Island, no island is only about 11,000. They cannot go to Australia without visa. Nevertheless, in Australia, Greeks are most featured European nationals. In Australia today, Australia hosts many Koreans, empty and free to come. Chinese are all over in Australia. You talk with the Japanese are all over in Australia. What has Australia got to do with these countries? As compared to those within the region that are part of the British Commonwealth? None of them. The story continues when we come, as we move on to Canada. And for that matter, how the British also takes the African countries in UK as compared to what they do with the Eastern Balkan or the Eastern Europeans. How they see Polish, how they see Romanians, how they see other people, compared to how Sierra Leonean, Nigerian, Kenyan, and all this in feature. So I'm saying that if the British are the lords of Commonwealth, do they even need it to go and join the European Union? Answer was quite completely needless exercise if you have the market and you're talking about trade and economy. And if you look at the Commonwealth Charter, everything, go in there and chairman, show me where Commonwealth talked about diplomacy. They never mentioned diplomacy in there, all the things that they do.
Mr. Manfo,
yes.
I see you want to...
Yes, certainly. I want to
set some records straight.
No, not to set the record straight. I'm simply amplifying the scope of the conversation. That's what I'm trying to do here. You know, when I mentioned the aspect of my education, which is partly predicated on the scholarship that I benefited from. Obviously, that is only an inkling of the good things that can be extracted from the Commonwealth, obviously. Needless to say that the Commonwealth has played a role even in the liberation of countries that were existing under some kind of colonial regime. Now, one has to take certain factors into consideration when appraising or evaluating the modus operandi of international organizations. One of them is even the concept of international law and the Treaty of Westphalia. What is the notional or the ideological basis of the Treaty of Westphalia? Which is the sovereignty of states. That very concept sometimes actually even works against the core objective of multilateral diplomacy. And that is a challenge that almost every international organization is facing, including the United Nations. Now, you made mention of the fact that there is room for improvement. You know, when you open your today's program with the UN Day, indeed there is room for improvement. But the UN has still done a lot of good. It has done a lot of work. Apart from promoting international peace and security and human rights, there is an aspect of development which I would say has gone quite well. There is definitely room for improvement. No human endeavor is perfect. However, one has to look at what has been accomplished vis-a-vis the challenges that the organization is facing. The membership of the United Kingdom in the European Union, that is a geopolitical factor. That is a geopolitical factor. Sometimes geopolitics also informs the foreign policy objectives and directives of states. So I've taken note of what he said, but like I said, I wish to amplify the scope of the conversation, and it is important to bear in mind that there is always room for evolution. That is a concept that was introduced by Charles Darwin, but it's a truism about human existence. Everything evolves. Nothing is stagnant. Let's bear in mind that, like I said at the very beginning, there is no crystallization in time and space, which means that there is room for improvement.
Okay, great.
And the improvement, if I may conclude on this note, will be based on the challenges that we face as human beings, as humanity. And the fact that we are now even occupying this all-important position within this important organization gives us the opportunity and the chance to frame it in a way and manner that it will be more relevant and more germane to the human endeavor.
All right, thank you very much. I'm going to move straight to, because we are working with, a small, we don't have that much time to finish our conversation, but we'll do our best to touch on the salient points here. I would want us to talk about the issue of reparation, which has come up even with all three candidates, before the election of Her Excellency, Honorable Shirley Ayoko Botchwey. This was one of the subjects that came up in the debate in London. And the issue of reparation seems to be something that the African or member states of the Commonwealth have been very, very, critical about. They are not letting it go anytime soon. But the UK, even in the speech of the Prime Minister, he only said that it's time for the organization to move forward. How can we move forward if we don't address the past? Do you think that there should be reparations?
It is long overdue with the reparation subject. And it is not the first time that it has come up. It has been a constantly featured topic with the Commonwealth. Let us not forget about in Egypt, a time ago when Mugabe had met Clinton and Tony Blair, when they had their rift at that time. These were the issues that Mugabe was shouting on the corridors of the convention, or this in the seminar or the event they were attending. Reparation is not today's subject. If UK Prime Minister today did not comment too much about it, UK, in my view, had not made her mind up with this reparation and this solution. Because if you have member states, let us not forget, it's not only the Africans, the Pacific and the South Pacific. These are the bigger numbers. And like I said, UK and the Malta and then Cyprus are only 3 from the Europe. All your members, you can take out, let's say, except the Asian 8 member states. All of the rest are facing with this issue of reparation. So what should be, and what is the difficulty for that subject of reparation that have been featured all along, that Commonwealth laws? I'm talking about the UK's. They have not attended to that subject. It will come up after Madam Ayoko's tenure. The subject is still the same. The debate of the reparation had featured all the time in all the discussions before any Secretary General is selected or elected by the Commonwealth. Yes, I'll take the opportunity to congratulate Our Lady for coming up to be one of the top diplomats of the world. If you take out the United Nations today on earth, Secretary General, I would say that the one who has the bigger one on earth, in my view, is said, not the one of European Union, because European Union doesn't come with the numbers. They are not up to 1,843,000,000. You understand me? They don't get to 1 billion. Therefore, every generation must solve their problems, the evolution that he's talking about. I would wish, and I would like to know, that yes, it is a very Herculean task on the head of Our Lady. It comes out to add value to the fact that Ghana, as I've told you before, in diplomacy, we position ourselves very well. That makes Ghana an attractive female lady But when it comes to our domestic, we're a little bit. Because if you see the former foreign minister, Hannah Tete, having hesitated from Minister of Foreign Affairs, landed on UN job to represent UN in the Eastern Hall. And then she also getting to the tail end of her tenure or portfolio as a Minister of Foreign Affairs, is landing on such a very lucrative diplomatic portfolio. It is a credit to the country. We've had Kofi Annan. So there is a country the world sees, as I've told you, when it comes to diplomacy, Ghana is the Switzerland of Africa. Very fair. However, I'm looking at how the African countries will support Our Lady if she wants to work. Either than that, I'm sorry to say that it will be a business as usual. She will have the 2 years or 3 years or 4 years, nice, attending meetings, delivering speeches, etc. At the end of the day, goodbye, adios. That will be the only thing. Because if the Commonwealth will sit down and find out how the Canadians, are treating the Caribbeans, whereas Canada is able to leave. Justin Trudeau went to Syria and picked almost about 1 million Syrians, gave them cars and resident permits and everything, whereas Ghanaian, Nigerian, Jamaican, St. Lucia, Grenada, Antigua and Bermuda, St. Kitts and Vincent, and all these countries in the Caribbean, Canadians have rift with them, just all in the good name of what? Immigration issues. Unless Madame would also is prepared to ask the Commonwealth laws, the British, and for that matter, and ask them, how? It's a sovereignty affair, we understand.
Yeah, but she's called for reforms.
Yes. Yeah. How is it that a Ghanaian diplomat, I don't know, maybe he will be able to tell me, is not able to go to the UK with his British diplomatic, with Ghanaian diplomatic passport? How is it possible that a Ghana president, a president of a Commonwealth nation like Nigeria, like Ghana, like Togo, and etc., cannot go to Australia without visa, cannot go to Canada without visa, cannot go to New Zealand without visa? How is it possible that we have a president of a country, Republic of Ghana, colonized by the British, and Ghana is an in-depth member of the Commonwealth? Nevertheless, Ghana president traveled to Canada with visa. Where do we do this? What kind of organization? So they don't trust that Ghanaian president will visit Canada and return, and that he was going to seek refugee status. Is that what the Commonwealth is telling us? Is that what the Commonwealth is telling us, that a Kenyan president will have to seek for visa before going to New Zealand? And to some extent, there's a story I can't share on here. A certain Ghanaian president had been refused with Canadian visa before, until there was a protest before the visa was issued. Meanwhile, that president was on invitation to visit Canada. So what are we talking about the Commonwealth? It's not there. So many things that the Commonwealth has let it open. They just don't want to tag the story. They don't want to tag to talk, discuss the issue to the extent that your countries, Gambia, Sierra Leone, Ghana, Togo now on board, Cameroon, etc. We pay the Commonwealth smaller nations, including those in Caribbean and those in the South Pacific. We pay the most expensive visas to go to the UK, as compared to how much the Asians pay and other non-Commonwealth states pay. If somebody is to pay £500 to get a single entry 6 months visa to go to the UK from a Commonwealth state, where is the Commonwealth? What Commonwealth do we have? So it is an idea, it's a system. That is what you call it. A regular, to me, is an international organization on the paper. That is very beautiful, very nice. But when it comes to how the Commonwealth, as we speak, we're not talking about reparation. Why is the Commonwealth having a Commonwealth forces in terms of military to support and to help to alleviate the suffering of Commonwealth countries that are fighting? We had the situation of Sierra Leone, when Fode Sanko was amputating people and etc. Why should Commonwealth sit and Sierra Leone destroying, killing themselves? It took the United Nations how long before and the ECOMOG came in? Where was the Commonwealth? So Commonwealth has not put herself. They talk about rules, human rights, etc. They have not formed themselves to support countries that are desperately in need, especially the fighting countries. Come election in 2 months in Ghana here, Commonwealth will represent. But if there are issues, where is the Commonwealth? We don't see them. So we have to critically look at not the organization name Commonwealth is beautiful, but what they do.
It's
no
mandate.
political, yes,
it's mandate.
It's completely
mandate.
flawed over the years.
It's mandate.
Since 1949, so way too long.
It's mandate.
Well,
I see you want to.
No,
right,
I mean, it's only natural for you to let me also make a comment.
Please.
All right, I mean, firstly, I would like to probably borrow some of the foreign vocabulary that he used. Adios, goodbye, and in my version, I would say bienvenido, welcome, bienvenue to Honorable Shirley Ayokori-Botry to the Commonwealth. You know, the one thing that I would like to say is that it's an accomplishment that is based on hard work, on collaboration, on dedication, on determination, on negotiation, and prayers. You know, and the foreign ministry is to be commended. We are all to be commended because it was a collaborative effort that has culminated into this monumental achievement. Now, I second the portion of his submission that's elevated the profile of our foreign minister. And of course, the president is also to be thanked profusely for ably supporting the foreign minister throughout this exercise to a very logical conclusion. Now, one thing that I would like to say is that now somebody from the global south is at the helm of the Commonwealth. Yes. I want to believe that it will impact positively on some of these delicate matters, such as reparations. You know, I'm not going to go into details as to how things are going to play out, but I still want to believe that matters that are of relevance to us will definitely filter through the agenda of the Commonwealth now that somebody from the global south is at the helm of affairs. And that's another reason why yesterday's accomplishments deserves to be applauded and commended.
All right. Thank you very much. Now, I'm going to come, this is going to be my final question to you both. Is the Commonwealth a colonial relic as perceived by most of the member states? Is it what it is, even though you have shared concerns from the challenges, how displeased the member states are, and of course, its mandates not been very much executed?
I would say that there is no such thing as a relic. It's all within the domain of human beings to decide what to use, how to use any particular entity. Even if I am to bury this cell phone, after 100 years, somebody might call it a relic. But if it is exhibited in a museum 100 years from now, it serves a different purpose. So how am I going to, now how do I link this to the Commonwealth? Basically, to say that it's a relic means that it serves no purpose anymore. Or even, not that it doesn't serve a purpose, but like I said, it evolves. And the evolutionary process means that it can be relevant to modern times. We are facing a myriad of challenges as a globe, as a planet. Needless to say that the United Nations in isolation is not enough. You need other international organizations to supplement, to complement the efforts of the United Nations. So you call it a relic, I would say no. I would say that it's rather germane. It is rather welcome vis-a-vis the challenges and the plethora of problems that are currently facing humanity.
All right.
Well,
please.
I have a diverse views when it comes to, for me, the relevance of Commonwealth. I'm saying that it's very
long overdue with some of the things which member states should have by now benefited from. Because the member states have really stood by Commonwealth. When invited, they are always there. Ghana had not declined her membership. Kenya has not done that either. Nigeria has stood with Commonwealth. African countries, the Caribbean, the Pacific, the Asians, the Maldives, the Singaporeans, the Malaysians, they've all stood by it. But then it is quite intriguing and quite interesting that you find out that I always refer to the Commonwealth Lords, the UK, which I think Madam Arioko, that would be one of her circular tax. That we know when East Timorese were trying to break away and have their independence from Indonesia, British was one of the leading countries. But I've given an example that your own colony of West Papua, British have never touched the story. Today, East Timor is an independent nation. courtesies to the UKs and the British, the Americans and etc. Why is the Commonwealth always calm, quiet, sitting down? Countries like Namibia, we came out of the womb of South Africa. What is the issue that Namibia is not part of Commonwealth? Can anybody tell me? Can Commonwealth say the issue? There are issues with some of the countries that they suppose, or Partex and Caicos. They also, Gibraltar is also a country that haven't joined the Commonwealth. There are pertinent issues that Commonwealth is supposed to address. Yes, it is not relic. However, some of their actions, inactions, seem to benefit only the global big giants within the Commonwealth. And I'm saying that you can't just pull out numbers of a country and you look down upon some, and then, of course, the Commonwealth in the mind, you think about the Australians, the Canadians, the British, etc. These are the beneficiaries among themselves because they share a lot, they do a lot. How many of the Commonwealth states still have the UK Prince Charles as the president of those countries? And go and look the character, the economic character of the situation of those countries. 13 countries within the Commonwealth is still to today having the president of the president of the country being the Prince Charles. So it is a little bit of too much of controversy when it comes to explaining and then looking how and why Commonwealth is still like that. And the British seems to. Reparation is a broad topic.
Right.
They may decide to do it, they may not decide to do it. It could be a dialogue, it could be anything. And if even the reparation that we're talking about, what would be the modus? It will be very difficult to have a template or a concept to do the reparation if in case countries are to be served. How are they going to do it? It will be difficult. So for me, that topic is too broad. But necessarily, we are talking about the environment today. We live within. We are talking about rule of law today. We live within. We are talking about develop the youth and society of the Commonwealth. Which one of them that are we talking about? So if, like I said, New Zealand can take countries from the Asia that are not part of Commonwealth and develop their youth, how much more the countries within their nose that they don't want to develop? This is the issue to me critically, not reparation. So Commonwealth have so much to do, and I think since our brother is from Ministry of Foreign Affairs, certainly he would have frequent interactions with their boss. Therefore, some of us and some of you out there must sit Madam down. I've had a chance to sit down with him. This issue of Commonwealth was not even in sight. We met during the Ngungi Amapoja declaration of the ACP. I sat with Madam at Kempinski Hotel. We had the discussions. And I was even joking around and saying, Madam, when would you try also to be the Secretary General of the ACP? Just only look at within from 2019 to today, see where she is. So I think, my brother, you have a task, and the assignment is some of them that ask Madam, how does she herself, Commonwealth Secretary General, go to Canada with visa?
All right, so finally,
it's the only question I want.
Finally,
that if she will be able to address the issue.
One thing that I will say is that we will continue to collaborate with Honorable. I myself, as I sit here, I have numerous ideas that I believe that once they are implemented, will make my brother here very, very happy and really satisfied. And he may even run out of things to say.
We'll make member states happy, I'm sure. You know, that was going to be my last question. That was going to be my last question. I was going to ask.
So he needs not worry.
Okay,
like
great.
I said,
I think you've been given an assurance.
There's room for improvement, and the improvement will be forthcoming, especially now that it is in the camp of Ghana.
Absolutely. Right. Now that it is in the camp of Ghana, what one direct impact are we to expect? We are closing, please.
You mean direct impact to Ghana?
Yes.
Well,
since we have a Ghanaian occupying
we add that to our international
platform.
Diplomatic portfolio stock. As one country, it's not easy to have a Secretary General from a country. It's not easy to have, like I said, the second biggest international organization on earth is Commonwealth. So if today we haven't that, at least there are issues that Madam will be able to articulate. Because if you are Secretary General of such an organization, at least you have a certain say. So I would like to believe that you use her portfolio. It's just like having a calf.
How much power does the Secretary General has?
Well, she's the administrator in chief. She's the one running the organization. She's the administrator-in-chief. No doubt about it. She's powerful. She's very powerful. If even we have the Commonwealth president, that is the Prince of Wales, Prince Charles, the King of England, duties of the Secretary General of Commonwealth, and that is what we're looking at. She's the one actually ruling. If it is in a corporate sense, you can call it CEO or you can call it COO. So there is no other person next to her. So in terms, she now has to, it's a full government. She's running a government, an international government. So let's see how she's bringing the governance home to Ghana. So the laws, most of the laws from the Commonwealth, from now on, will be coming out from Accra. Now she has to use her mediation power, the collaborations, and how she effectively had operated, catching the eyes of the Commonwealth states to vote her or to elect her to be the Commonwealth Secretary General.
To get things done.
She should be able to do something.
And we trust her to get things done.
Yes, well, to answer your question, the way you pose it, I would say that it significantly elevates the profile of Ghana within the international space. Lest we forget, this is coming on the heels of our successful tenure as a member of the United Nations Security Council. And prior to that, we assumed the chairmanship of ECOWAS.
Right.
So Ghana continues to be a major actor, a major player within the theater of international politics and international affairs. That tradition continues, and we can only be proud of our accomplishments as a tiny West African nation, but making significant waves within the global political atmosphere.
And making use of it is most important.
Right.
Having the portfolio is one, but then we have to make use of it.
Right, so hopefully we will be watching, we will be keeping an eye on the Foreign Minister's new position as the Secretary General of the Commonwealth. It comes with a lot of work indeed. It's a Herculean task, and we do believe that with the right partnership, with the right cooperation, and then the right people, and of course the will to get things done, we do believe that by the time she's done with her tenure, there would be some reforms when it comes to the operations of the Commonwealth for the good of its member states. I had tabled BRICS, the BRICS summit, which took place in Kazan, Russia, but unfortunately it's actually 5:07. It means that we've gone beyond our time and we cannot have this very important discussion on the show. So I am looking forward to, hopefully, all things being equal, I'll use the opportunity to extend another invitation to my able guest, and I believe that they will indeed make time to join us for us to delve into the BRICS, and we'll look at the summits that took place recently in Russia, a new world order with a question mark. We are asking all those questions. And so we will be looking at this hopefully next week when we come your way with another episode of Diplomatic Affairs. My guests have been Mr. William Mamful, who is the Director for the Americas Bureau at the Ministry of Foreign Affairs and Regional Integration. Thank you so much, Sir Director, for honoring our invitation. Indeed, yes, we really needed to have your views on some of these topics, and we're happy that you could make time to join us. I know how busy you are, so I was very happy that you could join us on today's show. And of course, our regular guest, who is in the person of Farouk Al-Wahab, our international relations consultant or diplomatic consultant, and we are always grateful to you for your time, also for joining us whenever the need be. Thank you so much for coming. My name is Harriet Nate. The show is Diplomatic Affairs, and of course I look forward to hosting you same time next week. Enjoy the rest of our program.